Hi, everybody. Melinda Pollen, Brown County 4-H Youth Development Educator, coming today with our next Engineering Design Challenge. I'm really excited and honored to be joined again by John Hill, the Brown County 4-H STEM Outreach Coordinator.
Hi, everybody.
And today, your challenge from us is a super amazing one. I'm so excited to start to see pictures of this filling up our Facebook and social media pages. This week, your challenge is to build a city. A challenge about using your design, your engineering, and your creativity in building a cardboard city with what we have laying around our house. So John and I are going to talk you through what that might look like. So before we start talking about what the actual challenge is, we want to give you a little bit of information about people, how we gather, where we gather, and some engineering and architecture pieces. So for as long as humans have been around, we have been gathering together in tribes or groups, clans, villages, cities. Human beings have been living together in small groups, sometimes large groups, for as long as humans have been around. And so we see individual houses that make communities of people that are living together. And there are four really kind of important things that we think about when we talk about cities and how things get developed. And John is going to tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, as cities develop and grow, they experience a population growth. And as more and more people fill in, they have to start dealing with some of the issues that causes. And they'll need someone to make decisions about what they're going to do with their trash, and so on and so forth. So they need to organize and decide who's in charge and who's going to make rules and how do they elect people. You also have to consider the physical environment. Are they near water? Do they have access to timber and other raw materials? And then you also have to consider technologies. As technology has increased, like in farming, we can make a lot more food. It's much more efficient with a lot fewer people than in the past. And now those people can go on and work on other things. We also have easier access to power. Before, in the beginning, it was more of like a stream-driven mill, and then you went to gas-powered engines and steam, and now we have giant coal and nuclear reactors, as well as solar energies. So that's made energy a lot more accessible, and that allows us to make more and bigger things. We also have to consider transportation. It's a lot easier to get things around to people. Think of Amazon. And building materials. We start out with timber, and now we are going into 3D printed materials. You can print an entire house with a 3D printer. So that's things like that, and steel have allowed us to build higher and more complex things.
And so as our cities get bigger and as they grow, lots of things change around that. Our people, we have more people living in a space. In the upper picture, we see, it's actually a photo of a mining community in many years ago. And you'll see the individual houses that families lived in. There are what appear to be 7 or 8 different houses that are there, probably with an entire family of 4 to 6, sometimes more people that are living in each one of those houses. As we get more people, and as John just talked about all of the advancements that we have in technology, things changed and our communities grew bigger. And what happens is we grew up and we grew wider. So in the larger cities, pictures like the picture below, you see lots and lots of people just walking around. You see really tall skyscrapers. We built up and we built down that entire street. You see cars where we didn't have them before. And what do cars produce? A lot of exhaust, right? So we have different worldly challenges because we have grown up and out. Lots more people means lots more trash. Lots more people needing houses means lot less green space. So our communities may have changed as our populations grew wider and older. And all of our cities now look more like the city that we see here, with some cities have more green space and some have less, depending on population and where people live.
So what do you see in your city? Here's a couple of pictures of random cities. You can see the roadways. You can see some open public places. You can imagine that there's maybe a shopping mall or resident. You can see the residential areas. You can see a factory, industrial parks, possibly recreation centers, municipal buildings. You need a place to, if you're in a cold climate, a place to store your trucks that are going to plow snow. You need access to clean water. You need to get that water, like a water tower, get that to people. Schools, you need schools, and you need hospitals.
And so as we start to build, building is actually a form of engineering. It's architectural engineering. It's a job opportunity for a lot of people. And there are some really basic concepts and principles that we want to share with you a little bit about, so that when you start to build your own city out of cardboard, we start to include them. So the first one is order. Order means arrangement and logical flow of places and things. By having those, it makes your city function well. You place a roadway next to a place that you need to get to, a parking lot in that area if you're thinking more than 1 or 12 people are going to be around. It helps also with our visualness of our own communities as we live there. Balance is the second piece. Balance is like visual harmony, colors, it feels good. It balances out what we need with what we like. And so you'll see some bright colors on places. You'll see lighter colors on other places. You'll see manipulation of form of buildings that might make you attractive in, and some nice low places where we want to be relaxing. Nature is also a consideration when we're building in architecture. Having enough green space and the opportunity for us to kind of keep that feeling that we get when we get out in nature, that relaxation feeling. Symbolism is like, is there a place in your community that can be noted by an object? So I think about hospitals. When we drive down the road, we see the H on the side of the highway. That's a symbol that there's a hospital in the neighborhood. Some schools, some churches, all of those have symbols that let us know that things that are in different places. And John, why don't you talk about the next couple?
Sure. With climate and natural environment, you have to take into consideration where you're located. Like before, I talked about if you live in a cold climate that gets snow, that's going to have an impact on how you build and where you build and what you need. There's also social structure and culture. What does your culture bring to the build, the design? What socially are you trying to get? If you build a giant wall to keep people out, that says something. Or are you building a giant wall to keep someone in? So you gotta think about how that affects your design as well. And then emotional and spiritual needs. We don't just build buildings just to house us or to hold a machine or whatever. It also can have a spiritual and emotional aspect in the design to get us to respond to it. A good example would be a church. And then there's also the past, present, and future of design. What was before, what is now, and what might be in the future. That also can have an effect on how you design or how you're going to build your building.
So as I mentioned earlier, architecture is engineering. And so this challenge is going to ask you to become an architectural engineer. And we want you to design and build your own city, you and or a team. So it could be an entire family project as well. But I want you to think about what your city would look like. Is it large or small? Is it old or new? Is it in the past? Is it in the future? Is it in the current? Is it by a mountain, in a mountain range, or is it near a waterway, a sea, or an ocean? Do you live there now, or maybe are you making your own city as we live in right now, or are you living in a future city, the one that you hope to live in someday, or that might exist in the future? These are the challenges that we have in front of you, is to create your own a cardboard city. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that looks like after we show you a couple pictures that have been created already.
And here are some examples of what people have created. You notice there's a different use of maybe some markers here. I see some crayon. Back on the mountains, that's actually cotton ball for the snow up there that's been glued on. And then you also see a little bit of, yeah, there's some more cotton over on that building. So you can see the packaging, the Honey Nut Cheerios. You can see different uses of recycled material. When you are building, try to build or use the colors and things like construction paper and so forth to add detail, not to be the main aspect of the building. If you look like at the house here down in the corner, you can see the use of detail and color, like on the windows, and then the pool, and then added a door and some bushes. That was really good use of materials there. Also on here, you can, up on the coffee shop in the building of the bookstore next to it, you can see how someone peeled back the first layer of cardboard to expose the core gut. And that can be used as a design element as well. Here it looks like a really cool kind of tin roof.
Yeah, I see a lot of really unique cardboard and materials in there. I see some toilet paper tubes, maybe a paper towel tube or something that might be in that big towel tower as well. Lots of different design elements that are there. And clearly it looks like a city, and that all of the different things that make a city. So that's amazing.
Right.
What we're gonna do in this challenge is really use that design engineering thought process that we've been using for the last few challenges. We gather information. Jon and I just shared with you a bunch of information about engineering and engineering principles. Later in a few minutes, we're going to talk with you about some strategies and some best practices and tips about how to put cardboard together. Once you have that, we want you to design something. We want you to think about it. What would your city look like? Draw it out on a piece of paper, develop what it might look like, and then we want you to get started building, testing it out and seeing what works and what doesn't. Remembering that there's no right or wrong way to do that, and there's also no, you're not out anything if your house collapses that first time. You learned what needs to happen and what happens when you put it together in a certain way. So we might have to start over. My house did not turn out the same way when I built it the second time. It was stronger and it was better. So we're going to do this process: information, develop, prototype, test, improve. It's a cycle, right? Like you're never really done with it. So the beauty of this project is that you can do that and reiterate your next house or your next building because of what you learned from the previous one.
That's a great point.
So let's get started with building. We want you to build a city out of cardboard, recyclables, craft items, anything that you have around your house. You could do this by yourself. You could do this as a group. And so any recyclables, cardboard, cereal boxes, packaging boxes, Amazon, delivery boxes, refrigerator boxes, big or small, any of those pieces will work for you. Clean recyclables, a coffee can or a tube, any other craft materials. We have a lot of string in our house. You might have a lot of craft sticks or toothpicks. You can use any of those devices there. You might want to use some scissors and tape and glue, markers, colored pencils, crayons, construction papers, paint, anything to get color and decoration to your creation as well. And parents out there, if you would like to encourage, if you'd like to use things like hot glue, cutting mats, X-Acto knives, we really ask that you do that in a safe and supported manner, where that is really adult supported, maybe adult using some of those devices that may have a higher risk than a typical scissors and regular glue. So Jon, I'm going to ask if you can give us some tips on the best practices around working with some cardboard.
Well, sure. First, I'm going to show you a joining technique. And this could be used just to join two pieces or to make a hinge for like a door. In the first picture you see, I have the two small pieces of cardboard there, and I'm just creasing it down the middle and making little tabs. Then you will place those across the two pieces that you want to join and either glue or tape or hot glue them. And then you can see how they're together. Now I have a joint or joined two pieces together.
And that could be used in your cities for things like doors or sidewalls, fences, all of those things that you can use those tabs. It gives your pieces structure so that they don't collapse as easy.
Correct.
What about cones and circles?
Yeah, this is a really good tip. Like on the top of this can be used, a cone can be the top of a rocket ship or top of a water tower. Basically, all you do is draw a circle, and here I use the cap because I'm not very good at drawing good circles. And then I cut around it, and then cut out basically a pizza slice or a piece of pie. And then if you work the cardboard in your fingers a little bit, kind of bend it back and forth, and then push the paper together to close that gap, then you'll form a cone as you see here in the picture. And then you just put some glue or some tape across that, and it'll stay in that shape.
And if we remember back to some of those other photos, that is how in one of your pictures was a water tower. And I believe that's how you made the top of that water tower, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Awesome. The last piece, can you talk with us a little bit about shapes? In the last couple of challenges, we've had you build towers and bridges, and we might have learned a little bit about triangles and triangle shapes. And there's probably some easier ways to build triangles than cutting three pieces of cardboard together.
Yeah, that's correct. A lot of times when people first start out building, you think, okay, I want to build a house, so I need four sides and a roof. So they cut out four pieces and then start joining each piece together. There's a quicker and easier way to do that. As you see here, you just cut a longer strip, big enough for all of your sides, and then use the scissors to score folding marks. And you even do an extra little, leave some extra on the end and score another piece. And that gives you a really good glue surface, that extra tab. That's where you can put the hot glue or your tape or your regular glue, and that gives you a nice surface to do that. It's really easy to make a triangle or a square. You can also put two triangles together, which is basically a square with a brace in the middle, very strong structure.
Very good. So then the last one we want to talk a little bit about is how you might make a cylinder.
Right, right. Sometimes you don't want to use a toilet paper roll or cardboard paper towel roll. So maybe you need it bigger or smaller. If you take the cardboard and you rub it on the edge of a table, kind of break it down, it'll roll up really nice, as you see here in the picture. Another point here is pay attention to which way the corrugate is in the cardboard. If you, like I said before, if you peel back that top sheet of paper, you can kind of see how the waves in the corrugate. And if you line them up one way, it bends really easy. If you line them up the other way, it's harder to bend. So make sure and do some practicing, and you'll see that if the corrugate in this picture, it's horizontal, and that makes it easier to bend and shape into whatever shape you want.
Great pro tip there, and paying attention to which direction your corrugate is going. That's amazing. So with all of those tips that we just gave you, different ideas that you might have in building your houses and using all of those different tips to make different shapes, again, your challenge is to build a city. Whatever you want that to look like and however you want to decorate that, you can build it in one day. You can build it over the course of this entire week, maybe even longer than that. What we want you to do, though, is really take a couple photos for us and share them on your social media feeds and any social media channel that you might be in, using the hashtags #WI4H, #InspireKidsToDo, and #BC4HWI. What that does is it creates an entire community of people who are sharing pictures of their own cardboard cities as well. If you have questions or you want some tips on how to make something work, feel free to reach out to our Brown County 4-H Facebook page. We will be in touch with you. John and I are here to help if you've got questions along the way. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching the video. Get creative and enjoy building your own cardboard city. Thank you so much for joining us and have a great day.
Thank you.